There's a lady from the north who has been speaking up about, Igbos and stuff for a while. And this other lady who is from the east, who is always saying her own version of truth, or maybe I should say her idea of what the truth is, which is usually not the truth. Anyway, she decided to respond to the northern lady, and then she just went on and rewrote history. I'm going to play what she said. If I'm able to, we'll listen to everything and then I'll respond. If not, we'll probably be breaking it because most of what she's saying is arrant nonsense. And the purpose of purpose of her video is to appeal to your emotions. But I can assure you, Allah Fulam. But we'll talk about it before we move on to other things. Let's take a listen to this lady. She calls herself Lolo. And more listen.
Hello Nigerians. My attention has been drawn on a young Hausa Muslim lady. I don't know her name, and I think she is so excited about Nigerian history. And I'm not going to condemn her because she's too young for the information she's giving out. So it's obvious that she was brainwashed, she was lied to. So I'm here to address her, and then
the person talking, how old is she? She never reached 60. All this, you're too young, you're too young. If you're able to study these things very well, and you have common sense, and you study across board, you will know what happened. Age doesn't confer wisdom on anybody. I mean, some of us are not that young, but it's not even about age, right? It's about being able to actually listen to all sides and know what happened. Because this one, that yes, she may be older than the Hausa lady, but what she's about to say, just take a listen.
I'm here to address her and then give her the real history, the real gist about Nigerians, because the youth now have gone on rampage. They say they want to take back this country and they want to fix Nigeria to be a working nation like every other nation. So I think a young woman like her should be towing that path. But since she has some false informations, I'm here to educate her. Now, she specifically said it was troublesome. Igbos are the ones trying to divide Nigeria and the rest of it. Now, my young lady, it was Igbos that work for the unity of Nigeria. In fact, Igbos played a strong part in the amalgamation. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe spearheaded it. Even the Yorubas, Awolowo did not just like it. Hausas did. It was Igbos that work for the unity of Nigeria. In fact, Igbos played a strong part in the amalgamation. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe spearheaded it. Even the Yorubas, Awolowo did not just like it. Hausas.
Wait, though. Azikiwe was born in 1904. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was born in 1904. The amalgamation took place in 1914. So he was 10 years old. Papa Awo was born in 1909. So he was only 5 years old at the time. So when did Zik, Awo, and the Hausa sit down to discuss amalgamation? Hell, to Fiakwa. It's going to be a long one. Let's continue. We'll go back just a bit. Kobale makes sense. Okay. Amalgamation.
But since she has some false informations, I'm here to educate her. Now, she specifically said it was troublesome. Igbos are the ones trying to divide Nigeria and the rest of it. Now, my young lady, it was Igbos that work for the unity of Nigeria. In fact, Igbos played a strong part in the amalgamation. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe spearheaded it. Even the Yorubas, Awolowo did not just like it. Hausas did not. It took Zik a lot of time to convince the Hausas on this Nigerian nation. And then for
the only time that Zik had to convince the Hausas was when the Hausas wanted to secede. and that was in the 50s before independence, and they had a session in Yaba, and Zik gave a speech in Yaba, and he was one telling them that, oh, if you go, you'll be landlocked, you will have a problem with sea. Kiniko. No, it's not secession clause. It has not. It wasn't about secession clause. This was even about the fact. This was before the London conference. The North wanted to secede, and they was telling them why they should not secede. Zik had no business. Zik was not the one that even moved the motion for independence. It was Anthony Nauro representing Action Group. He said Awolowo did not like unity. Really. Number one, this amalgamation nonsense that she even said has spoiled everything, because there is no way any of them was there when they were having conversations in 1914. That's a fact. But that Zik did something that everybody did not do, it's just rubbish. But oh boy, I'm already tired listening to this, but let's just continue. It may not be like say we have to finish what we started, so let's finish it.
For those of you who are saying Igbos are domineering, Igbos are greedy, Zik ceded the prime minister to Tafawa Balewa and accepted to be just a ceremonial president.
Zik did not cede the prime minister position to Tafawa Balewa and agreed and accepted to just be a ceremonial president. No, 1,000 times no. Zik couldn't make that decision. The decision was made for Zik. Zik didn't decide that thing. He didn't. Let's talk some history. 1955. It came out that, and the person who helped us actually know about what was happening was Eyoita. What we discovered was, or what the nation discovered in 1955, was that Zik had been essentially pilfering, taking money that belonged to the Eastern Region Marketing Board, funneling it into the African Continental Bank, his own bank, using that money to fund his businesses. And by 55, they discovered that the business was already essentially bankrupt. He couldn't pay the money back. At that time, the money was already £877,000. The matter went all the way to House of Lords in the UK, and then there's something called Foster-Sutton tribunal that was put together to actually get to the root of the matter, and they discovered that Baba don't mash money. I don't even know how to speak PG very well. The man has misappropriated funds. Zik, right, was going. There's actually a plan between Action Group and NCNC. Awo and Zik in 1959. What happened in 55, and then there was a House of Lords. I have the document here. They answered in 1956, and then there was Foster-Sutton tribunal, right? And by 59, AG and NCNC, that's Awo and Zik, were supposed to work together, and the plan was for Zik. The plan was for Zik to be Prime Minister and Awo to be Minister of Finance. That was the plan. Because it's not today's topic, that's the only reason I'm not going to be opening books. But if you want me to tell you books, I'll tell you. If you read the answer, I already mentioned Answered is online, by the way. The Answered is online. You can literally read everything about the case there, right? If you read Infatuous People by Dele Ogun, it's right there. So what happened was this. While the Western region, or the Action Group, AWO, had the plan with Zik, and they were like, okay, this 59, we're going to make this happen. By the way, every single time there was an alliance between the East and the West after 1953, every time we have had an alliance had been at the instance of the West. In 1953, the first time there was going to be a partnership was at the instance of Zik himself, when he went out of the House of Representatives building to talk to Action Group members who had walked out of the parliament because of the case that had to do with independence. Chief Anthony Nauro had moved the motion for independence in 1956. The North said as soon as practicable it became, whatever. The Action Group delegation walked out. Part of NCNC remained, another group walked out. When they walked out, they had a conversation with AG. That was the first time they had an alliance. That was in 1953. 59 was at the instance of the Yoruba, the action group. Only for them to discover, I mean, they had gone, according to some reports, gone to Asaba, hoping to have a meeting and to discuss, finalize what was going to happen, action group and NCNC alliance. Only for them to discover that Zeke had gone to work with the North. But why did he do that? Now, there's a report by a man called Harold Smith, who was a British colonial officer, got to Nigeria in 1955. Excuse me, some of his statements are in the book I mentioned earlier, A Fatherless People by Dele Ogun. And he mentioned that because of the case that Zeke had, having misappropriated £877,000 in 1955, they told him he would go to prison. He had only one option, that is to work with the North. Now, I said all I said before I mentioned this because people have also taken that out of context and say, oh, Oyinbo's cajoled Zeke to work with the North. They would not have been able to do that if he had not stolen money. He misappropriated funds. The British got him to work with the North. And that's how he became ceremonial president. And guess what? I think I should play a video. We're going to come back to this. It should not be sweet like that if I don't play this video. Give me a second. I want to play something from Harold Smith himself. That's the colonial officer. He granted an interview and he said something on this matter. He was there, by the way. So I think we should listen to him. He wasn't just there on the road though. He was representing the interests of Britain. Take a listen, please.
The British government wanted the North in alliance with either of the southern region, either with the Yorubas or with the Igbos.
But Awolowo,
without which they cannot
they can't do this
rule the country.
The problem was that Awolowo was a highly principled man.
Okay.
You didn't talk to Awolowo about squalid deals and fixing things. Awolowo was not that kind of person. If you read his books, this man was a world statesman. And his young lieutenant, Chief Enaharo, was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. However, they did do a deal with Zik, Dr. Azikiwe,
okay,
from the East. Dr. Azikiwe, there was this big problem in Nigeria. It's the same big problem in America and in Britain. How do you get funds to fight elections? The candidates in Nigeria had no money, but they did have marketing boards, which were a kind of semi-nationalized industry. And they borrowed money from the marketing boards. But there was a suspicion that Dr. Azikiwe, who has formed his own bank, the African Continental Bank, was actually bankrupt. But he was borrowing very large sums of money from the marketing boards and not necessarily repaying the loans. We knew this. We had a great secret service. All the politicians' phones were tapped. All the politicians' mail was opened. Everything that any major politician did in Nigeria, we knew in hours. We watched. We knew all that was going on.
Are you saying, in essence, that Dr. Azikiwe took money?
He was blackmailed by the British to do our bidding. We told Dr. Azikiwe that he could go to prison if an inquiry was carried out into his bank and his financial circumstances. However, we would not want to be vindictive if Dr. Azikiwe was cooperative in helping forward the plans that we had made in the best interests of Nigeria. Dr. Azikiwe had nothing in common with the northern politicians. He loathed the northern politicians. But Dr. Azikiwe went north, and did as he was told, and what he was promised was this: the real power, effective power, would be in the hands of the northern emirs. However, it would look great if the president was Dr. Ezekwe, and he was given a field marshal's uniform and an admiral's uniform. He asked, please, could he have a row of medals? But they said, well, no, that was a bit difficult, to get the medals. So when the ambassadors started arriving, he was known to be asking people from foreign countries, perhaps they had a medal for his uniform. We thought this was terrible, but it was said that this happened. He was very vain. And for a time, he functioned as first the Governor General, and then when Nigeria became a republic, as the president. But he had no power. And when he did try to tell the army, he said, I'm the field marshal, the army has got to do this. They said, hey, you're just a ceremonial figure. You have no power.
Someone says, so Zeke was a puppet and was made so due to his criminality. You could say that. I'll read some things from the Foster-Sutton tribunal, from the Foster-Sutton Commission of Inquiry report. We're going to have another session to discuss this whole thing, right? But here's something from that tribunal. This from Cambridge University Press, by the way. It says, the tribunal concluded Azikiwe's conduct, quote, fell short of the expectations of honest, reasonable people, end of quote. The Eastern region had placed large sums in 1955, reportedly £877,000, funds from marketing board reserves into the bank via the region's finance corporation. The ACB extended favorable loans to companies controlled by Azikiwe's group at low interest, with repayments deferred until much later, even though ACB, African Continental Bank, was financially unstable. The pattern suggested a serious conflict of interest. A public official, who is the premier of the region, effectively using his public position to channel public funds into a private institution in which he had personal interest, and now use that money from that private institution to fund his own private businesses. Contrary to accepted standards of public office is equal to public trust. However, deemed the conduct as below the standard expected of honest, reasonable people, it did not impose criminal or legal sanctions against Azikiwe. Why? Because of what Aaron Smith just said. So the idea that Zeke was like, oh, I'm a statesman, I don't want to be a premier. You be the premier, I'm just going to be this ceremonial president. After all, what are friends for? That nonsense. It did not happen. Let's go back to the lady talking whatever she's saying. But we'll be stopping and playing. But let's continue now.
It's a Nigerian nation. And then for those of you who are saying Igbos are domineering, Igbos are greedy, Zeke ceded the prime minister to Tafawa Balewa and accepted to be just a ceremonial president. So it shows the quality of Igbos. The rebellious one was Awolowo, who contested for the Senate and did not win. So he became rebellious from then on.
This girl doesn't have sense. Listen, anybody that insults Yoruba elders, particularly Awo, as far as I'm concerned, they are stupid. I don't care how old they are. They could be 75. They'll still be stupid to me. But let's even respond to what she says. So that he tried to go to Senate and he didn't win. That's nonsense. He clearly won. He went to go to the federal parliament and he won. And guess what? He became leader of the opposition in parliament up until the time he was sent to prison. He won. What did he not win? What he did not win was the slot to become prime minister. Why? Because they couldn't constitute the majority. This is why I say fools grow old though. What's with this nonsense? I always the one that was anyway, the condescending tone with somebody that you could never, your fathers could not lace his shoes. Your grandfathers could not lace his shoes. Then you now come and lie again, say he didn't win. He won. He was in parliament and he was the leader of opposition. But you wouldn't know. Instead of you to be reading books, you'll be listening to Radio Biafra.
Now, what actually caused the war, my young lady, is Awolowo that caused that war, because he was so restless when he couldn't win the Senate, and when there was an election in the southwestern region, I think Zik won and he rebelled. Do you know that Awolowo was the first?
Jesus is Lord. Is there a school for stupidity in the southeast? Zik won. Where? When? Zik's winning was in 1951. When you're discussing, it happened in 1962. Jesus is Lord. Zik did not even win more than his own seat. And he was trying to become the leader of business government and he lost. Just like you guys will keep losing anything else to the federal government. It's the truth, by the way. Someone said Zik won before the war now. Which seats did Zik win before the war? In the east? He didn't even run for any seats after he became premier. He was premier from 54 to 59. Then he went to federal. He went to become president, and that was it. He was elected in 51, and he won, by the way, Yoruba land, and then went to Ibadan to represent Lagos. And then when he could not, then he wanted to become the leader of government business, and he did not do it. He couldn't win. So what did he do? He moved back to his base in the east, and then he became premier in 54. He didn't have to run for any office. 59, he could have, but then again, yeah, we listen to Harold Smith. Harold Smith tells us, what happened. Became, and someone, yes, until 79. And guess what? What he did in 59, he repeated in 79. Awolowo still initiated this pact. By the way, there's a book, Nigeria on the Keg of Gunpowder, by Victor Taiwo, that talks about the fact that he said he wasn't going to even run in 79. At the time, in 1979, Zik was 75 years old. Because we talk about these people, it's about to be mentioning, he was 75 years old. So he said he wasn't going to run, he was going to be the statesman. Then he changed his mind and said the old man that said King Kong young man, he did one parable. Then eventually ran as the NNA presidential candidate. As Awolowo had, talked about alliance with NNA, UPN and NNA, he broke that agreement just like they did in 59, 20 years after the same thing, every single time. That's why when I hear all this nonsense about Southern Alliance, you must be very, very ignorant to think that you can have an alliance with the Southeast and then you can do something. It's not because they are bad people, it's just because they have a different mindset and they have a different, goal, which is okay. I'm not saying you should change your goal. I'm just saying that based on what you are and who you are and your goals, I can't work with you. Every single time there was going to be an alliance between the West and the East, now the West go say more do am, now the East go break am. Now the East go come, they cry all over the world, say they don't betray me. Now you betray people. More continue. I don't know how many minutes I don't take listen to this 5 minutes video, but okay, it's 5 minutes 54 seconds. Let's continue.
Do you know that Awolowo was the first person to go to prison for treason in this country? Not an Igbo man. It was a Yoruba man, the first person to go to prison for treason, and he was in that treason and coerced his own people.
Did he go to prison for treason? Yes. How would it? I know what, one of these days I think we should do a session on that thing, because there's a lot of nonsense. Let me recommend 2 books on this treason issue. There are many books. 3. We should have a session on this treason thing and what happened with Justice Showemimo and the exact words he uttered, just like we can talk about what they said with their guy Chief Awolowo, The Political Moses by Odugua. My March Through Prison, Adventures in Power, Book 1 by Awolowo himself. And then Chief Awolowo, there's another book called Adventures in Power, Book 2, Travails of Democracy and Rule of Law. I will say this, as at 1961, Akintola was already pushing the idea that Awo was planning to upturn the government. And that's why you discover that the idea that they just came and said, oh, he did it, they set it up for over a year. When they had the Just Congress, that was the first time that thing came out, and came out from Aketola. When we have the session, we'll talk about it. It was a setup. You couldn't say this is what he did or what he said. That's why when I saw Aloy Ejimako, I don't know what kind of gut you would have in your life to compare Awo and your Kanu. That's Ibosibo. You couldn't say what he said. You could say, we heard this, we heard that, but nothing concrete. But the accusation began long before. I mean, it was so bad that in 1961, Awo had to do this thing where they called the leaders of Yoruba people, including Obade Soja Deremi, and they had Akintola, in that meeting. And Awo said, this is what he has been saying. And then he started saying he didn't really say it. Then they called the other two people that he had told those things, and then they said he didn't really tell us. And eventually used it against him in 62. It was a setup. And we have evidence. Not all this your rubbish that you're saying. We have evidence. It's not there. It did not happen. But did he go as prison? Yes, it did. But guess what? While the length she's about to say right now will make me spend some time discussing this thing. Emma Bruno. Okay, but let's listen to. I'll just go back a little bit. Take a listen, please.
For in this country, not an Igbo man. It was a Yoruba man. The first person to go to prison for treason, and he was in prison and coerced his own people to carry out so that he can come out. And some young Yoruba soldiers convinced Igbo soldiers. And of course, in their way and manner, they deceived Chukwumanzogu to lead that coup, but which he did. And then that coup.
This is insanity. Anybody that knows that should tell her, this is insanity. This is insanity. Number one, there's no way on God's own earth that the man was planning a coup from Calabar prison. The people who planned the coup never. 200 people were interrogated in April of 1966. Between January and April of 66, a document was published. Not in April, by the way. The document came out maybe about 20 or so years ago. It was declassified. It's called the Special Branch Report, April 1966. Not once did they mention Awo. All of them, interrogation 200. And the ones who wrote books did not even mention Awo in that light. And I'm going to tell you what they said. Because this lot will always mention Adewale Ademuyiga, go and read why we struck. They have never read that book. They only mentioned that book because the person that wrote it is Yoruba. So let's break this thing down. Number one, he said he was in prison when he was planning it. Ask her for what's this? What do they call this? Ask her for proof. She'll tell you, I don't feel like give you the proof of liars and propagandists from the southeast, and this has been the case since the 40s. It's always, I don't feel like give you. They have nothing of this, it's just nonsense. There's no proof that happened. He said he convinced Yoruba officers. So I want to ask, if hear the names and let me know if these names are Yoruba. Don Okafo, Emmanuel Fajuna, Ogbo Oji. Are those the Yoruba people that called Zogu to go and start a coup? If you read the Special Branch Report of April 66, in August of 1965, that was when they began to plan this coup, and there were 3 people who started the planning. August 65. By the way, that was about a year after Ojuku's coup was quelled. Ojuku and Azikiwe were going to have the coup in 64. And you can find that in Sheikh Shagari's book, we talked about what Azikiwe was trying to do, but didn't really go deep. If you want to go deep, you have to read David Edgeworth's book, Reminiscences, and then you put that together with Emeka by Frederick Forsyth. That was Ojuku's coup in 64 that somehow Webi Everett was able to stop. 65, those 3, Emmanuel Ifajuna, Don Okafor and Ogboji started planning the coup and began to get people to work with them. So they recruited a number of people. They recruited Humphrey Chukwuka. Then they recruited Chris Anufuro. Then Chris brought in Nzogu around October. Then Nzogu brought in Adewale Ademoyiga around ending of October to beginning of November. So the idea that Yoruba people got Nzogu to organize a coup is only insanity. You have to be very stupid and be mad to say that. Because not only is it a lie, it has no basis in reality. You had 6 people planning this thing, and 5 of them were Igbos. And guess what? They were happy to do it, and the Igbo people celebrated that coup as their own after Ironsi became the head of state. And you see it in books by Shehu Shagari Bekon to Serve. You see it in The Tragedy of Victory by Godwalabi Sama and The Origins of the Civil War by Azikiwe. They were glad to say it was their own coup, and it worked. Then they said, oh, Awolowo, number one, I don't know how Awo in prison is able to get this. Number one, there are no Yoruba people to even fight this stuff. The Yoruba people that got involved in it, if you read the book by Awolowo, they got involved around to 11:40 p.m. on the D-Day. And if you read the book that they're always telling you to go and read, please be Yoruba, please read that book. You should read the book, because it's not only lie they get the inside this word. Adewale Ademoyiga said all of them did not know what they were there for. And that is also confirmed by Ben Bule in his book, Nigeria's 5 Majors. And Ben Bule is Igbo. Then he said that Awolowo was going to become head of state. No, that's stupid, because a person is in prison. The book that everybody is always talking about, Why We Struck, the man said they plan to release Awo from prison. That's where he stopped. And then he said that the government they wanted to run was going to be a military government. It wasn't about civilians. It was going to be military government, and they plan to create 14 states in Nigeria, 7 in the north, 7 in the south. That's in his book. So what he wrote was that they're going to release Awo from prison in Calabar. However, when you read Special Branch Report of 66, it turns out that there was no plan for Calabar at all. Which means that the Yoruba man was brought in with this fine stuff about, oh, we're going to release Awo because a prisoner of conscience. But there was no plan. I've said it several times. There were 5 capitals in Nigeria in 1966. Because there were 4 regions. There were 5 capitals in 1966. And there was one place of interest. The 5 capitals were Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, Enugu, and Benin. One place of interest was Calabar. Of all those 6 places, they only planned for 3. Lagos, Ibadan, and Kaduna. That was it. They had no plans for Enugu, had no plans for Benin, and definitely had no plans for Calabar. The man was supposed to take the helicopter, the chopper, to go and take Awo from prison. Sunday was not available the day before. The one that was supposed to go to Enugu did not leave Lagos until evening. If you allow these people lie to you, it's your fault. And the reason people have been quiet for Igbos because, oh, they suffered. You cannot use, we can't be doing trauma bonding. If you suffered or suffer, you can't use your suffering as a cover to perpetuate lies about others. Let's listen to a few more things.
That coup was actually to release Awolowo from prison and make him president so that you can have peace. But eventually it was foiled.
Also, the idea that the coup was put together to make Awolowo president was first published by none other than the Eastern Region newspaper in 1967, 1 year after the fact. 1.5 years, as a matter of fact. 1.5 years after the fact. That was when the Eastern Region decided to tell the whole world, though. Eastern Region government paper, that, oh, the reason they did this was because they wanted to release Awolowo and make him president. Nobody ever said that. These people cannot make progress because there's no way you are lying like this. It's just a bunch of retards. Like, you can't be saying this thing about Awo, especially when it's a lie. If it's the truth now, we say, okay, what happened, we are sorry. But, like I say, it is what it is.
And now, who fought the coup? Two Igbo men, Ojukwu and Agui Ironsi. Now, if they are so desperate, Agui Ironsi would have supported the coup and become president.
Agui Ironsi supported the coup and he became head of state. That's the point. Agui Ironsi was in on the coup, not the coup or nonsense that she said. Agui Ironsi was literally in on it. He knew what was going on. All you have to do is open your eyes and read. Coup. Go on, the biography of a soldier statesman by J. Sawelagu. Mention exactly what the man said. Agui Ironsi. Tragedy Without Heroes by Larry Njoku, the first commander of Biafra military. He told us what he said. David Ejo wrote reminiscences. We saw what he did on the morning of January 16 or January 15. Don't come and be talking nonsense. Nigeria's 5 majors by Ben Buli. We saw how he escaped death. It was planned work. And then you mentioned Ojukwu for the coup. Ojukwu that knew about the coup, that was sitting on the fence. Whichever one that works for him, he will just join. Himself, Madebo, Obieno. Obieno was in Abeokuta. Obieno was supposed to bring the tank that they were going to use in Lagos. He now changed his mind suddenly. Then 2 days later, he was the one arresting them, and then he was the hero. You guys are not serious.
And possibly kill all the northern high officers. So for you to know, my young lady, you are not well informed.
That's literally what happened. How many officers did the West have in 1966? 6. We lost 2. How many officers did the North have in 1966? They had 5. They lost 4. Leaving only Gowon. So what kind of nonsense is this? Oh, if they really wanted power, they would have killed all the Northern officers. That's literally what you did. You killed all of them. Lagema, Pam, Memalari, Ker Mohammed. Those 4 were killed. Those are the Northerners. 4 out of 5, leaving only Gowon. That's why Gowon was made the head of state in July. Well, in August 1, after the July coup. July counter-coup of the North. They said, you know what, it has to be a Northerner. So they chose the most senior Northern officer, the only one that was remaining. And the only reason they did not kill Gowon was because he came back the day before. He literally just arrived from the ship. He was on a ship, arrived with his girlfriend Edith, and then they met the man who was telling them that nobody knows tomorrow. You know what I say? You killed all of them. Yoruba people had 6. You killed Ademulegun and Rafshode Inde, and Ademulegun's wife, 8 months pregnant, killed. The Yoruba officers who were not killed were the people who were not around. The only one who was around was the person who was going everywhere to make sure that everybody supported Ironsi, Victor Banjo. And what happened to him on Monday? He was running around on the 15th Saturday and 16th Sunday. Oga becomes head of state on the 16th on a Sunday. By Monday the 17th, he had Victor Banjo arrested. The evil your fathers did, man. The fathers have eaten sour grapes. These children's teeth are set on the edge. And instead of you to find a way to fix it, now lie they lie. That's why you can't be delivered. See, if they really want power, Gowon would have Ironsi would have supported the coup and have become the head of state. That's actually what happened. He supported it. He said they didn't say they were going to kill anybody. Who told us that? Hilary Njoku. And he mentioned who was in the room. There were 3 people that had 3 different versions. Almost the same version of what happened on that morning of 16th. Of what I keep saying 16th. Morning of 15th January. Hilary Njoku, the first commander of Biafran army, Ironsi said, but he didn't say they were going to kill anybody. He knew, and he said as soon as he said it, Gowon looked at him, Njoku, and thought that he knew what happened. But Njoku claimed he did not know, but Gowon did not care because he never spoke to him about it anymore. And Gowon told us what he said the night before. What's all this nonsense lies that you are lying all over the place? Then you said if they really wanted power, they would have killed all the Northern officers. You literally killed 4 out of 5. What's the percentage? 80%. And you became head of state. I don't know what drug they are giving people in the Southeast, but it's affecting their ability to reason or more.
And Agui Ironsi. Now, if they are so desperate, Agui Ironsi would have supported the coup and become president, and possibly kill all the northern
That's what he did.
high officer. So for you to know, my young lady, you are not well informed, and that is why they refuse to teach you history in school, and that is why I'm not angry with you, because
So now this one then teach history. Ignorant person, they tell that person, say the person they ignorant. It's only Q. You are saying somebody is ignorant. You are ignorant as well now. You are Q that you are lying to everybody.
with you, because you are not informed, because they have built this country on propaganda and lies, and they have fed Hausa youths and Yoruba youths with propaganda and lies that cause the resentment over a tribe, the most peaceful, a tribe that has held this country together, if you ask me. Okay, now, after the coup was failed and Agui Ironsi took over, some northern young militaries also did a counter-coup and killed Agui Ironsi.
I beg you. Coup was not foiled. The coup was three-pronged. Number one was to have a revolutionary coup. That revolutionary coup was a cover, spearheaded by people like Nzogu and Adewale Ademoyega. They were revolutionaries. The real coup was ethnic, and the reason for that coup was two. They had two plans. Number one was to ensure that Kingsley Mbadiwe became the prime minister, so we would have Igbo president, Igbo Senate president, and Igbo prime minister, then Igbo GOC, because all of us are Igbo Lawase. And if that did not work, then you had an Igbo head of state. That was the plan, and it worked. So when you hear this thing about he quelled the coup, he didn't quell any coup. He just switched to the next level. It's like you're watching, what's the name of this movie? 24. You watch 24, Abi? How many of you have seen 24? You know 24? Jack Bauer. Once you get to the climax, something else will just happen. Where then they go, they know where then they go. It's not like one ended, they know that everything is part of the plan. And it's a plan that did not start in 66. It's a plan that started in 1944. And this one is saying that people are ignorant. It's actually funny how ignorant people tell others that those ones are ignorant. But let's continue.
Some northern young militaries also did a counter-coup and killed Agui Ironsi, and over how many Igbo generals, Igbo soldiers, these informations were killed. The only person we hear they kill is Agui Ironsi. We didn't get to hear the remaining soldiers of Igbo extraction that were killed. These things were buried. Now, after killing Agui Ironsi, which Gowon also helped to plan, you can see, so he took over government. And as if
Gowon did not help to plan the counter-coup. Kids, this is nonsense. The officers who were killed, there were people who were killed. It's true and it's terrible. Over 200 of them. But guess what? It's called a counter-coup. It's a retaliation for what happened in January. The one you did in January, you say is Yoruba because you don't have the capacity to bear responsibility. Apparently that's your kryptonite. Then the one they are doing in July as retaliation for what happened in January, you are saying they just killed our people. They did not bury anything. Say they buried it. They didn't bury nothing. You don't see over 200 people lost their lives, and it's sad. It's what Yoruba people call king of fear. If you decide to hit a person with a club, if you slap a person and decide to hit you with a club, I mean, next time don't slap people anyhow. I mean, shouldn't have hit you with the club, sharp, but you to use your brain. Why are you slapping people? But you can't even take responsibility for the slap, because for you, nobody. They used my hand. My hand was not there. It's the tip of my finger that slapped him. I was not the one. That's the spirit that they put inside these clowns. Yakubu Gowon did not plan that coup. He knew about it, but he did not plan it, and he definitely was not going to be the one to head it, unlike Agui Ironsi. And that's why, in case I'm sure a lot of people here know, For 3 days, Nigeria did not have a head of state. July 29 to August 1st, there was no head of state. 1966, Nigeria did not have a head of state. You can go and fact check. You can literally go and fact check. July 29 to August 1, Nigeria had no leader. What was happening in those 3 days? That's the question. They killed, I mean, this is sad, by the way. Nobody deserves to die that way. But let's not act as if, by the way, notice what she should start doing. She start appealing to your emotions going forward. She has been lying all the while, building it. Now she's getting to the climax. At this point, emotional argument, Lokun saying, just watch, you will get to that later. So I said, unfortunately, they killed Ironsi, which is terrible, by the way. They also killed Fajri. But when they did it, the northern region was not planning to install Gowon. Guess what they were trying to do? They were trying to break up Nigeria. They called their Operation Araba. It was about secession. They wanted to have a Republic of the North. And interestingly, they commandeered 2 aircraft in Lagos to move people from Lagos to Kano. Their wives, their children to Kano. The ones who were on the foot, who were not in a plane, they told them to move to Ilorin. They were going to declare a Republic of the North. What happened between 29th July and 1st August really was that, like, Adeto Kumbademola, who was the Attorney General, people like Alhaji Salem, I think that's his name, was the IG of police. This is from Beckon to Serve by Shehu Shagari. Let me go back just a bit. 2 BOAC and Swiss Air VC-10 airliners, which they briefly, that's the coup plotters, they briefly commandeered on 29 July, each made one trip to Kano, conveying families of northern troops. Acting on advice, some few northern civilians, including senior civil servants, also packed their bags up north. But these were probably no more indicative of secessionist intention, any more than they were precautions to ensure it was actually secession. It was trying to shield northerners. They did it, and that's okay. At any rate, the rebels made their future intention apparent by asking Ogundipe on 29 July to surrender control to Gowon, but they did not prevail until the next day, following a number of intercessions, notably by a group of federal permanent secretaries and other public figures. Among the permanent secretaries were Alhaji Musa Dagash, that's the name I was thinking of, Abdulaziz Atta, Mr. H.A. Ejoyiche, Yusuf Gobier, Mr. B.N. Okagwe, Ibrahim Damsida, Alisin A. Aida, and Philip Asiodu. There was also Saadito Kumademola, the Federal Chief Justice, Alhaji Kam Salem, the Inspector General of Police, Sule Katagum, Chairman Federal Public Service Commission, and Mukhtar Tahir, a senior civil servant and intimate of Murtala Mohammed. By the way, Murtala Mohammed was actually the one who spearheaded that stuff. This Oga Gowon did not plan it with them. Then it says here, from Kaduna came Justice Mohammed Bello, a Northern High Court judge, and Alhaji Ali Akilu, the Chief Secretary to the Northern Group of Provinces and leader of its civil service. Sir Francis Cumming Bruce, the British High Commissioner, and Mr. Herbert Matthews, the United States Ambassador, also subsequently went to Ikeja to press Gowon to maintain the country's integrity. In the end, Gowon's leadership was accepted by a majority of the surviving members of the Supreme Military Council, thanks to informal consultations coordinated by Lieutenant Colonel Ejo, the military governor of the Midwestern Group of Provinces. On 1st August, Gowon accordingly assumed power as head of state and supreme commander. Those were the people that made sure Nigeria did not break between July 29 and August 1, 1966. But you know what you do if you really want to destroy people? You absolve yourself of any responsibility. By the way, if your people mess up, I will tell you. If we mess up, this is where we messed up. Why? So that we don't repeat the mistakes. But if you don't take responsibility for anything you ever do in your life, you can never grow. Whether as an individual or as a group, you always have people. By the way, there would not be. I don't make it. It's not a curse. There will never be a lack of agitators in the southeast, and many of them are going to be violent. And the reason is not because people hate them; it's because they hate people like this. Oh, we did nothing. They hate us. They are doing because once the children hear this thing over, Kanu was not born during the war, neither was I. Kanu didn't know anything about the war. He didn't see it. He definitely hasn't read anything about it because he speaks very ignorantly. But he's not, I'm not surprised. Everybody is ignorant. I mean, it is well. Just regurgitate propaganda. The history na lie. Nobody bothers to study it. Everything they say is what Radio Biafra told their fathers in the 60s. And I've said it here before. If you think I'm lying, read the Biafra's leaders, the trial of Biafra's leaders by Nelson Ota. I've read it here before. I don't want to read it tonight. The Radio Biafra people were lying to the people even when they were losing. And the people were busy celebrating. They will hear gunshots, artillery shell. And guess what they will say? They'll be like, those are Biafran scientists trying out their new inventions. Meanwhile, people are trying to bomb their place. But why are they celebrating in the streets? Because Radio Biafra told them that they're just having fun. They're just celebrating. They're testing out things. The people believe the nonsense. The people that will kill them are coming in. And when they die, they don't blame the people who lied to them. They blame those who came in. Ota called it mass hypnosis. How that thing has lasted since 1966 to 20, tomorrow, next year will be 60 years, right? How it has lasted is something that should be studied. And I think I should read part of it.